Order the Swanton Selectboard meeting January 7th, 2025 at 6 p.m. First item, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Agenda review. I know you had the two items, I wrote them down, but...
So I printed off the two options, so a discussion on the Welcome to Swanton sign.
That'll be Newtown Business 6D.
And discussion on joint meeting with the Planning Commission and the trustees.
And that'll be E, under Newtown Business. Kathy?
I'm good, thank you.
Nicole?
I'm all set at the moment.
Earl?
Just, I don't know, either an update or what we're gonna do with the, trailhead. I know we didn't get the bids last year, we couldn't get anybody to do it. What's the schedule for this year?
Yep, we'll make that
Yeah,
an
put that
update under Old Town Business, item C. Actually was on the phone about that today, so good. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right.
All set.
I'm good. Steve? Brian?
I just have one minor thing, it would be under probably old business. Is this, there was a question presented by the school district relative to the land swap. So it's a quick question.
Under Old Town Business?
Yeah.
Okay, it'll be D, because we got the LVRT under, so, land swap. Okay. Minutes, regular select board meeting of December 17th, 2024. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, but I have some questions.
Okay,
I'll second it.
and that motion is to approve, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Motion's been made and second to approve the regular select board meeting minutes of December 17th. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, the question I have, I noticed that they reported they were gonna hire a part-timer. Anybody that, when we hire employees in the town, does the select board have to approve hiring of employees?
Yeah.
So,
What employee,
Are
what,
you in regards to the recreation department?
yeah,
Oh,
said they're gonna hire a part-time employee. But don't, I guess my question is, if we're adding employees to the town, doesn't the select board have to approve that?
That's a good question that I've never been in that situation, Steve, so I don't have an answer to that.
yeah, I don't know on that. I thought you were talking about the zoning.
No.
Right, no, so you're talking the Swanton Rec position.
Swanton Rec position. I don't know.
Would that apply to all of the seasonal positions that we fill with teenagers as well as our
Don't
food
know.
booth?
Don't know.
Historically, doesn't your board interview the people you hire for the positions?
In my contract, it says the executive director does, and then I bring that to the board of directors for their approval. And then the board of directors approves the candidate that I recommend to them. That's how I've done it in the past few years with our seasonal employees for staffing.
Perhaps it might be well if we were advised of, and I know what you need seasonal employees, no question. Maybe we should be advised when you're adding employees, because our staff is growing.
That's what that is.
Yeah, and so this came in under a presentation that you're gonna be adding a half-time employee. I don't know if we're gonna be paying any benefits or anything, but when we add employees to the town, the select board should approve it. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's something out there that says we don't have to, but I think we should. And I think we ought to revisit it as to why that you're adding this person. Now, there's a brief description here. The other thing, it said they quoted me, Mr. Bourgeois said that they did the right thing. They did the right thing by buying the tractor. I totally don't approve of borrowing money, as you know. I was quite vocal about that. And I've asked Brian to go and get the loan documents, the original ones.
Well, I've made copies of them.
We want
So
the original ones.
okay. Well, I can do that tomorrow. But
Yeah, you can get them those to
Copies
get
of them.
started. Yeah. And then another
I
update.
have the originals of the documents I just gave Ryan.
Why not the company money?
All right,
One more question. Kathy was gonna look into the, being able to commingle the $60,000 reserve fund under the auspices of our,
Yeah, it's in the process now.
what does that mean, Kathy?
Basically, they're gonna, I've spoken to Lisa and they're gonna transfer those two accounts into our infra file, which means they'll go into our cash management. So
Good.
they'll be getting the same interest rates that we do.
Good.
So it's in the process. There's some documents she's gonna e-doc to me.
Good, 'cause we lost money on that, it's like, interesting. Good job.
any update on the rate? Because I know that it varies.
The CD rates that we have right now, because we have 3 CDs in that infra file, yes, they are all, that are paying 4% is the interest rate on the CDs. And then the actual money that floats in and out, it's between 2 to 3, it fluctuates, because it's based on the investments that it's in there.
Okay, I looked over the deposit placement agreement.
Now, which one is that?
That's the big thick one, and that just talks about how they're transferring the funds. That's a suite.
What's the date on that one?
9/9/19.
No, we have a new one.
Yeah, I asked for this about a month ago, and this is what I was given.
Okay, so
I don't need it now,
I can get it for you.
okay, because what I'm trying to figure out is, what are they using as an index to pay us these monies?
Oh, I can show you the statement I get that shows where the money goes and everything we gain off each investment.
Okay, but okay, so if it goes into treasuries or it goes into some other.
It's a variety of things.
Okay, and what's our net yield, Kathy? What's the APY on that? Annual percentage yield,
But I know what it means.
okay.
So right now, when I talked to Lisa today, it's at 2%.
Okay, is that net of all the fees for the transfers back and forth?
We're not charging any transfer fees.
Good. So we're getting about 2% of our money.
Yep. On the money that we have, because some of the money, if we want to invest longer term, then we're going to get a higher rate. But the money that's in there, we can't leave it in there because it's not going to stay in there. It's going to be spent. The money comes from taxes and then it's gone by the end of the year. So it floats back and forth.
Have you ever put that out to bid?
Can we,
Okay.
this conversation should be a separate item
Yeah,
at some point in the meeting. We're trying to go through the minutes here.
Get the audit, we get to
Yeah,
the audit
discussion.
discussion, that'll probably come up.
Okay, anything else about the minutes, anybody? On the item about Northwest Access TV, there's a little typo on opposed. You'll see it at the bottom of the page, if you could fix that. Anything else? All right, no further discussion. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Public comment for anything that is not on the agenda? Okay, law enforcement, chief. How we doing this evening?
All right.
Fairly quiet New Year's, I heard, which is good. Except one incident later in the evening, morning.
Yeah. It's certainly a little different than Burlington. Used to be our busiest night of the year.
No, I bet it was.
Every year.
I bet it was.
So as these go around, we'll see there were 53 incidents total in the town the month of December. Top 10 incident types were 12 direct patrol, 6 traffic stops, 5 motor vehicle complaints, 3 thefts, 2 welfare checks, 2 agency assists, 2 alarms, 2 DLS or driving license suspended, 1 juvenile problem, and 1 custodial dispute. Out of the 6 traffic stops, there were 4 tickets and 5 warnings, although 3 of those tickets apparently were directly associated with traffic, and my guess is 1 was, I would have to look at that to see the ticket section. Yeah, one was a possession of tobacco. by a person under the age of 21. There were 5 arrests representing 5 individuals and 9 charges, criminal charges total, and 2 of those arrests were associated with traffic. And then looking at additional services, this is somewhat interesting again as far as the data goes and what's put in. There were only 2 incident types of directed patrol for additional services this month, which on paper there represents, I believe, 1.5 hours. But what it doesn't account for is the drug warrant that we did. And I don't know if you saw the press release, but I've attached the press release to the back of this packet. So again, that property is technically in the town. It's the second time around that we've executed a search warrant at that property, and there were 27.5 hours of surveillance associated with that case that was not captured in additional services but occurred outside of regular contract hours. And then added to the 1.5 hours, it was a total of 29 hours in the month of December for additional services. I was going to hopefully try to pull more cumulative data for you, and I apologize I did not get a chance to do that for this meeting, but I did pull it for the additional services from April, from when we signed the contract to the end of December, and there were a total of 96.75 hours of additional services provided to the town outside of regular contract hours. And just also to give you some perspective on the amount of work that goes into the drug work and investigations, to execute that search warrant, there were 9 officers involved, there were multiple agencies involved, but for the Swanton Village officers, there was 27.25 hours of overtime for 5, spread out over 5 officers associated with execution of that search warrant. That the village essentially covers when we do casework like this. And it is actually, the officers do get double time after a certain number of hours, but so I just left it as OT to make it a little easier to digest. But it has been busy. The drug stuff has picked up. There's definitely a few different crews from different areas, different larger urban areas down south that have become more active again in Swanton. So, been very busy.
Chief, how does the word travel that people come here? Or they just indiscriminately decide they're gonna come to Swanton?
Well, for example, when we executed this last warrant, we ended up arresting Marcus Jubry. So we arrested Marcus in 2023 associated with a search warrant in Highgate, and he is part of the street gang in Massachusetts, the Springfield area, called the Burr Street Gang. So there were 2 Marcus, and I want to say 1 or 2 other individuals with him at that time in 2023. So we located him on this last time around at this search warrant that we just executed in the town, which was technically actually in the new year. We executed in the new year, even though it was kind of an ongoing investigation.
So they were familiar with Swanton?
Yeah, he certainly was familiar with Swanton. How they originally ended up here, I'm not sure. I mean, my theory is that social media has definitely caused many issues for us, and that it's much easier to meet people through social media. And so these guys, we used to joke with some of these areas, like in Burlington, for example, we would always get guys from Bed-Stuy, New York. And the joke was, what is their directions to Burlington in a bathroom somewhere in Bed-Stuy? It is interesting, but I think it's really social media and how easy it is to meet people through social media. And then these conversations that happen, and then they end up coming up here. And for example, this is typical of I would say, drug work throughout the state of Vermont, is that you get these individuals from out of state who come up and they get into a residence, and then they use that as their their basis for their distribution operation. And so they're using or working with locals, at the same time to distribute their product.
The repeat offender.
Yeah, and it's interesting, apparently that case in 2023 was dropped, which I need to follow up on as to why. I don't think it was this current state's attorney who was in there at the time, but that was a rock solid case in 2023 over on Virginia Lane, to the point where we knew exactly which individual threw the narcotics out the window, because as we were going through the front door, an arm came out the window with some identifying jewelry. So it was really very easy to say, yes, this is definitively the individual who threw the package of crack cocaine out the window on Virginia Lane when we executed that search warrant. So that's something I'm going to do, is follow up with the state's attorney, because it is also frustrating for the officers, because it is such an extreme amount of work that goes into these cases. They do a very good job, and then to have something not followed through on through the court system is very frustrating. I don't think it's helping the community in any way.
No. No.
So, but there are many different reasons why that may happen, so it's something that I need to follow up on. And there's been, a few different cases like that over the years.
And they come right back to the same place.
Yeah, well, similar. I mean, they're in Swanton, so right, like the local community here, because Virginia Lane is certainly right off Frontage Road there, so it is part of our community.
Unfortunately, it must be, the band must be pretty good then, if people are willing to take those risks all consistently.
Yeah, and it's the locals who suffer from substance use disorder, right, that really support the trade or enterprise, if you will. So they're the ones housing these people. They're the ones helping distribute. We had another incident that I was dealing with first thing today, through literally right before I got here, where we had a gun stolen in what we believe was a drug deal, essentially gone bad. So again, involving people from out of state. So it's a lot of work, and it's nonstop. But it needs to be continuously addressed like that, because it will continuously reappear. Until the local individuals who suffer from substance use disorder get the treatment they need, I believe it's going to continue.
Well, we gotta stop people starting it. Maybe we ought to make more of an investment in that area.
It's absolutely a very good point. I mean, I believe that, there's any number of reasons, why individuals end up where they do. But certainly it is tragic. I want to say another individual today, my guess is it's most likely a drug-related overdose death, but occurred in Highgate today also. So with an individual, I'm just guessing just due to the age of the individual, but I have no direct knowledge. So it's a scourge that again needs to be addressed. I would much prefer people get the help that they need to help turn their life around. And then, the problem is all the secondary crime associated with drug activity, the property crime, and then unfortunately the more violent crime associated with it.
And it's expensive too to have, we have to have the police service, and a lot of that money's spent having to address that problem.
Certainly, as far as time and effort goes, if you're looking at billable hours, that's a huge, huge chunk of it.
Certainly appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, we do.
And having people that are capable of it too, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a different style of work.
This isn't traffic stops,
No.
and doing that stuff.
No.
You guys do a great job, you really do, keeping us safe.
On the thefts, I see 2 were listed on First Street. Is that issues when getting into the stores and stuff, or walking out of stores with stuff?
I would have to look at those incidents to see.
I'm just curious, because I see more and more where people just walking in and walking out with stuff, and I didn't know if we have much of a problem here yet.
I wonder First Street, my guess is it might be the Sunoco. So I know, and I don't know if it was last month or the month before, that we did have a lot of recyclables stolen at one point out of the Sunoco. And they have had issues, you know. Again, there's a lot of a crime like that, and the officers were investigating another case where we had a burglary actually involving another stolen gun, and then it ended up, the individual didn't even realize this, but a credit card was stolen out of their residence also, and then that credit card was used in fraudulent activity at multiple businesses in the village. But that was also then tracking down, you know, the loss prevention security people to get surveillance video and identify those individuals, and we were able to identify who was in possession of the credit card. It still doesn't necessarily allow us to prove exactly who burglarized the residence, but we have a pretty good idea of who it was. So, but again, these things require a lot of follow-up, so that initial response is just the initial response, and then there's a lot of follow-up on the backside.
And a lot of paperwork.
Yes.
Any other questions for the chief? Totally good?
No, I'm all set.
Good. Again, thank you very much, and please pass that on to your team too, because it's a lot of work, as you say, and frustrating work. They need to know that we appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe drive home.
All right, next on the agenda is the new Swanton Town Health Officer and her report. Susie, welcome.
Thank you. Hello. My kids joke that I'm trying to take over Swanton, but I assure you that that is not the case. Okay, so everybody got my reports.
Yes.
It seemed like it was pretty, I don't want to say quiet, but it was. So I had that dead skunk, and as you can see, it came back later that it was actually in Highgate and not in Swanton, but Sarah DeWitt said to just leave the rabies information up, because it's always good to let our folks know that wild animals carry diseases. On the one from the 18th on Farrar Street, after I spoke with Brian for guidance on how to handle that situation, I went and spoke to the resident, and then yesterday I got a call from the inspector at Department of at the DEC, at the Energy Conservation, and he stated that it was not in my purview and I should not have gone and spoken to the individual, and that I merely should have forwarded the complaint to the DEC. So I will know that for next time. It was, you know, I think Brian and I were both really kind of unsure of how to handle it. We figured he was doing something that he wasn't supposed to, but I didn't realize that the DEC was considering it as a pollution and a scrapyard investigation versus a public health investigation. So he asked in the future if I found something that I was questionable about, that I have his number. He's the inspector for Franklin County, and I can call him directly and say, hey, is this something for me or is this something for you? And then if it's something for him, I just can go online and fill it in on the online thing. So he was a little, I don't want to say he was angry with me, but he was a little upset because when he went to speak to the guy was like, no, I already heard that from the health department. I told him I was health officer, but I already heard that from the health department. Yeah, I know. And the way the inspector kind of stated, the way he likes to do his inspections is just kind of like pop up where they're not expecting him, kind of catch them off guard, and so trying to foster relationships with, you know, Department of Health and the DEC. So I'm going to try to do what he asked of me, so I don't step on anybody's toes.
So at least you tried.
I did.
Yeah, absolutely, and in the big picture, it is a health issue when we're dumping all that stuff in this, but yeah.
It was something that I never came across from the time we were doing it, or ever heard any prior health officer having to deal with something like that.
Right.
Was he
Yeah.
actually catching the freon? He wasn't
He
just.
wasn't, he was releasing
Just
it into the
releasing- he
air,
wasn't.
and he
It
said
said he
that
had a jug, but no, he
can
wasn't.
catch it.
Oh.
He said, I have a tool, I can put it in a jug, but I hadn't. He's
Yeah.
been doing it, I guess, for several, well, since he moved in, and there was a complainant on the street who didn't call me directly, they called trustee Paxton, who then called me and
Yeah.
said, hey, is this something that you're responsible for? And I was like, I don't know, I'll find out. So, I did go and take pictures. What the inspector asked me to do is just to make sure that the scrap stays in the truck bed and does not become part of the yard, because then I will have to reach out to the inspector to let him know that the scrap has moved. He said as long as it's in the truck bed, it's not a hazard, but once it's out onto the property and then it's sitting on the property, that's when it becomes a hazard. But the releasing of the freon was definitely an issue, but it was a DEC issue, not our issue.
Suzie, is that a rental property?
It is. It
Out of
is.
town ownership?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Colchester, Essex. I have the list. I got a list of all the landlords in the village from Diane, so I will double check that, Steve, and I'll email you.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I made the assumption already that
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as well as the 18th, as I stated, I got the email from ALARP. I went over. There's no remediation being done at all. I took pictures of the two buildings, and as I was doing that, one of the residents and tenants came out and said, "What are you doing?" So I explained who I was and what I was doing, and she said that was the first that she had heard of there being any sort of lead paint issue in her apartment. And I was like, "Well, I don't know for sure I was just asked to take photographs to see if there's remediation." So and this wasn't 5 through 7 wasn't one of the ones that Brian was working on before I came in. So this, I think, is one of those.
This was new.
Yeah, we don't cut us off. So, but 5 and 7 isn't one property, it's two separate properties. As I stated, one is owned by an out of town landlord who owns the brick property on the corner, and then the other property is owned by a town resident. But that is
That's that little duplex?
Yeah.
yes, and it's sided, so I don't, if anything has a paint issue, it's gotta be 5 versus 7, just in my opinion, because of 7 being sided. So I have
Could it be an
nothing.
interior paint?
It could be, but they asked me to take pictures of the exterior in the email. So that was my belief, that was an exterior thing and that there was an exterior remediation that should be done, because it specifically said if the building is sided, let us know. And so I did for 7 and told them the makeup of 5 and kind of explained my pictures in the email back to them. It's a brick building with the addition, painted, slatted.
A little surprised they call and ask you to take pictures for them.
I was surprised too.
Well, they normally, they did with me on the other prior one on Grand Avenue.
Okay.
And again, that was an interior.
Interior one, but they wanted to
wanted
take
outside
exterior
pictures.
photos. Okay, so that, I guess that does make sense. And then the dog bite, as of last Friday, I had no update as to whether the individual had come
And
and,
he has not.
And he has not,
And I
okay.
notified the
Jim.
animal control
Okay.
thing about that.
okay. And so that is all I have.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Guys have a good night.
You too.
You too.
All right. Highway Department, nothing, I'll give you a better report the next meeting. They are out and about, as you probably hear them go by, and they went out Sunday morning, and then went back again tonight to take care of a couple spots where they had some drifting. But give you a more detailed report of what's going on the highway next meeting. Old Town Business, Swanton Rec, 2025 proposed budget. We asked them to make a few changes to the summary sheet, and that's what they did. Started on page 9.
So, we had a budget of 240,520, and we ended up the year with 253,707.
Estimated end of year, correct?
So, okay.
We did receive, we took some money out of our special funds for some things. We also did receive a small grant, but we're waiting, we have a larger grant in place, but we're waiting, we report back on that on the 15th for reimbursement.
When you say special fund, you're talking about the reserve fund?
Correct.
How much did you take out of that?
I think Betsy said 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000. That would be a Betsy question.
So as it states here, and I think it was mentioned in the last meeting, is the majority of this increase is the healthcare.
I thought it was higher than that, but you got budgeted in this one, 50 some odd thousand.
Health and safety.
Correct. Because in 2024, we did not budget for both full-time employees to have health coverage this year. We should budget as if both of us need to take on, which I've had to make changes for myself and I had to add my daughter to health insurance. We need to have the money budgeted if both of our full-time employees needed to take health insurance.
So I see that as 40,000 basically, if what I'm reading here is correct. 2025 proposed is 57 and,
Just about 40.
right.
Is that
And you got
42%?
17,000 on budget, but that covers the new part-time employee, right? For your payroll's up 150,000. I mean, it's not 150,000, but it's up like 17,000.
Correct, that would be
Yeah, for
the
new-
part-time.
Yeah. Okay. And this says here 42% increase.
That's the change from what we asked for town appropriation last year to this year.
Basically the 167 to the 239, that's the 42%.
Correct.
Can I ask, I know it's not connected directly to the rec, but just for any of the other budgets here, is there any other risk that we have of where we don't have budget for individuals if mid-year they switch and start benefits, where that could affect us?
Well, we anticipated, like with Nicole, with the rec department, they only have 2 eligible people. A
Yeah.
part-time person, I don't know how many hours you plan on, is it year round, or you're gonna work more than 20 hours a week, is it just summer help? Because it depends on how many hours they work per week on an average, whether they qualify for any benefits. So chances are they're not gonna qualify for any health or retirement or any benefits like that.
I guess my concern is like, just using the highway department as an example. Do we have individuals today, like within our budget, are we set to assume that, you know, in case the risk was halfway through the year, somebody gets married and suddenly they want to switch on to our insurance, is that within the budget today, or would that be something that we would have to reach into special funds to pay for? Or would they be over budget?
The budget would be for what we have, and if we did have someone go on, then we would be over our budget at the end of the year.
Finding line item.
But if, we may be over on the health insurance line, but we could be under on another line. So your bottom, when everything is
For
paid,
sure.
your bottom usually has more money left over than what we've budgeted for one reason or another.
No, and I just want to make sure that the board's okay with the risk of that situation.
Well, there are some additional highway funds that are kept aside anyway. There's a couple different funds we have for the highway.
Yeah, they got your contingency fund.
Yeah.
Because I guess in my mind, like, it shouldn't be a shock to the taxpayer that if we have an employee, they should, you know, they're eligible for benefits. We should make sure that it's budgeted in there and that at the end of the year, all of a sudden, it's not, oh, well, we had to pull funds from these 3 other programs to pay for the benefits halfway through the year. Is that something that we should be looking at across the board to make sure that we have our, you know, we're covered?
I feel pretty confident in the size of the highway budget, that if we had to
Yeah.
carve out 30,000 somewhere,
Okay.
we could do that, because there's some other unknowns at the time.
Yeah.
So I don't see a big risk in the
Okay.
highway.
Right, and right now with our employees in the highway department, they're, 3 out of 4 of them are married already. And the 3 of them will not be having any more children, so they won't be having family plan.
Okay.
And there's one that's single that possibly could get married at some point, but it's not gonna be $30,000.
Okay. I just want to make sure as this
Right.
comes up, is this something
Yeah.
that we need to take a step back and look bigger
Yeah,
picture on, or because I don't have any concerns if that's what's raising the budget here, then that's the cost of doing business, right? Like people deserve benefits, so no concerns there from my end. I just want to make sure as we look at this, looking across, there are any concerns elsewhere.
That's a good question.
Yeah, on the rec piece, so I guess when I said the majority, when I see now that there's 50, 90,000, only 40,000 is accounted for from health, so there's another 50 that is other line items that add up 2,000 here. and
17,000 in increased payroll because of the part-time
Right.
employee.
So
you've got-
17 of that as
So
well.
you got 57 there roughly out of the 90 right there, and the rest is,
The cost of goods, which is,
Yeah.
just looking at it, Little League uniforms went up substantially, our soccer uniforms have gone up substantially. The cost of the goods plus the screen printing has gone up substantially, almost double than what it was in years prior. And we do shop around and we go for the most affordable quote for quality overall. I mean, we really try our best to be fiscally responsible. I mean, count zip ties and inches of duct tape.
Is this number of, hold on, I got it. 239, is that net of all of the income we get from the various activities?
yeah,
That's after the income that we
Yeah.
get in.
yeah.
Correct.
So,
And we have made changes to the cost of our programs to counterbalance to where we still think it's affordable for the community. Of course,
yeah,
we've tried to balance that out so it's spread out to those participants that are utilizing the programming. So we've raised our rates for participation for programming.
Yeah, because your revenues are up, you're figuring more
Yeah,
revenues too.
$21,000.
But that 42%, is that coming off here? Because last year you had an $18,000 carryover, this year there's no carryover.
Correct.
So the amount we had to raise by taxes last year was $150,000, this year it's gonna be $239,000.
it's gonna be a tough sell. I mean, we need it, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
That's all justified, but let me ask you another question. What are the payments, how much are the payments on this tractor loan?
I just gave Brian all
Yeah.
that information. I don't have it in front of me.
Payments are $160.12,
How many, okay,
36 months.
I assume that's one of them zero interest deals, right?
Again, it's,
So-
Brian has all the paperwork in front of him, I can't answer the question.
Just quickly giving a look over here, there's no interest rate stated.
So it
There-
must
If
be,
you look further in the package, it's in there.
It is, okay, that's a set
Wow.
I doubt it's a zero on that smaller one,
I
but
think
maybe.
it's 1 point,
oh, they entice you that way. That's
Yeah, the
popular.
bigger ones, I think.
Well, you get
Even
a
the
credit
small-
card with it, that's what happens.
are the payments in your expenses? I didn't see them.
they're under we discussed it last time, they're under the equipment repair and replacement fund. A lot of our equipment is on the older side and every time we go back out, it seems like we're finding more and more issues, so we wanna make sure that we're budgeting enough money to make sure that not only is the tractor payments being paid, but when we need to replace the equipment, we're not at such a shock of, having to take away from other programming. It's time to start budgeting to repair the things that need to be repaired.
I suggest in the future you might wanna have an entry, a GL entry for amortization, but that's about $1,800 a year, or $160 a month.
Okay.
Yeah, we should, where you put it's fine, but I think we ought to have a separate line item here for it, for payments.
If you could please share that with Betsy, Brian, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on the rec budget? Okay. Next item on the agenda is a discussion of the bid for weatherization work on the library building. It's on page 13.
Are you gonna make an approved budget before you move on?
I'd like to.
Oh, we're gonna wait for that budget meeting, that proposed budget meeting.
Yeah, we can talk about that when we, separately, I
Yeah.
think, yeah. So, one bidder. We were given a rough, I think, was it 7,500 from Laz on doing the work?
That didn't, I thought we were gonna do something about the elevator.
We did. We were going to, then Laz said that he
So-
wanted to be present when that happened. Now, did you have a conversation about with Patrick on the?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So if he was to do that, it would be on top of this bid then.
Right, but just for the weatherization,
Yeah.
7,500.
Right, there were separate line items on that information
Yeah,
that
that's
Laz
what
gave.
Laz was estimating.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
7,500.
Yeah.
And this one talks about actually taking the sash out and working on the rollers as well, because they found when they were looking at it, right, Brian, I wasn't there, you were, that they needed a little bit of
Yeah.
care other than just putting the weatherization.
The sash, the roller was, well, they're old, they need some attention, yeah.
So they'd still be able to open the windows then if you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know we talked about
Yeah.
maybe pinning them, but it
Yeah.
sounds like they use them, which
Yeah.
isn't a bad thing.
Right.
So, if people are good with this, we only had the one bid.
I'll make the motion that we accept Menard's bid for the weatherization on the windows at the Swanton Public Library. For the, what, for the amount of, and I couldn't then find that page, $5,310.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? The only discussion item I would like to relay back to Menards is I think he should do one window and have us look at it and make sure we're comfortable with the work before he proceeds with the other. He just give us a little heads up when he's doing that, so if everyone's good with that, I'd like to throw that out there.
That's fine.
And when are we looking to have him do the work if this is approved?
As soon as he can.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I hope not tomorrow.
I've got a feeling if he's gonna take the
Yeah.
window apart, he's gonna have to put something on the outside and push it up, close it up, you know.
Probably wait for better weather, I'm sure.
I was just thinking the sooner the better. We're winterizing, save
Right.
on heating.
Yeah,
Do we have a date that it needs to be done by? We didn't put that, wasn't in the bid, right?
No, it wasn't, but the way he spoke, he's, he can get it done fairly quickly. But no deadline.
Yeah.
We could add one if you want.
Well, I don't wanna push them through hot, bad weather, you know?
Yeah.
I think 90 days is, 60 to 90 days is fair. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
60 days see if he box it down.
Yeah, if he needs an extension, then it'll have to be agreed on by both parties.
And when he's
That's
there,
what
I'm
we
gonna take him up and
Yeah.
ask him to look
Yeah.
at the top of that elevator.
Yeah.
And see what he thinks. Okay,
Before we move on that, what about, has Laz and you guys been able to get together to put the bid out for the big job? You know, the insulation underneath the eaves, I mean, under the rafters, that's.
yeah, let's approve this and you can ask that right
Okay.
after and we'll answer that. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So, we approved the spraying of the insulation. What we haven't approved is the other work that needs to be done, and we haven't got it lined
Okay.
up to, and we need to. It's one of the notes I wrote down on items that we have to do is we need to get a hold of an HVAC contractor, and it really might be good to see if Laz has any recommendations to figure out the
Yeah,
removal of the ductwork.
Yep.
And there are a few other carpentry items that needed to be done as part of that. He had them lined out there, and
Yeah.
it's time to get that in motion
Yeah.
because we need to do this work between the heating and cooling season,
That's
really.
right.
You know, in the late April, early May timeframe.
So we need to get the contractors to do that stuff, and the main contractor's already lined up then.
Yeah, we said we agreed to that, the price they came in at that.
It's
Yeah.
signed and
Yeah,
ready to
so
go.
can we get hold of Lance
Yeah.
and see how much he's gonna get involved? Cause part of it, we're gonna pay him to
Yeah.
coordinate this
Yeah,
stuff, so.
that's right.
Yep. So that's the update that as far as I know.
Okay.
Okay, LVRT, two things on the LVRT, cause you asked the question about the special funds, the 90,000, 60-something thousand was spent. We will get back 80% of that. Did send Brian and Kathy today the guidance on what kind of letter we gotta write in the spreadsheet that we have to submit, so. The balance after that, we will have like 78,000 plus we put 28 last month toward it, so about
About 100,000.
almost,
Yeah.
and that'll be used toward the actual construction contract.
Yeah.
And talked with Chris Hunt, just got off vacation this morning, so talked with him, and we're gonna set up a schedule, and I wanna get this back out to bid the end of the month,
Yeah,
so that we can get bids in
yeah, hopefully get somebody that.
mid-March and then get that started as soon as the weather breaks, so.
Yeah.
And he's all for that, and that's, you know, he said, yeah, so that's the plan right now, is to get that back on the street. Okay, and we had something on the land swap.
Yeah,
under old
I
business.
received an email yesterday afternoon from the school district. There was a couple of things that I'm working on, but the question for you guys, the question they put to me was did they want, for the boundary adjustment, did they want, for what they are doing, or what we're doing with the boundary adjustment, should they have their attorney prepare the deed, or should have our attorney prepare the deed? Typically, since they're, if we're giving them the land, and the boundary adjustment, we're the grantor, so our grantee, I would get that mixed up, but we would be the attorney, like if we were selling it, we provide the deed, but in this situation, I didn't know how you wanted it done. If you had a choice.
I would think our attorney should prepare.
Yeah, I think our attorney should do it, yeah.
All right.
Just to, it's a better protocol, and
Yeah, and there's going to be need of, and I got to get a hold of Brian Rowell there's some things that they've got to do on their end too, so it's.
Well, they'll have to draft up that deed too, and just we have to draft one to them, they have to draft one to us.
But they also have mortgages on their property.
Well,
So,
that's,
well, yeah, but
Yeah.
that's got to
yeah,
get partial discharge.
yeah. Well, they're gonna end up with more acreage, so it shouldn't be an issue.
It shouldn't be an issue, no. But that's, so that's, I'll let the school know, and then get a hold of Brian, and then the other Brian. We've got 3 Brians in this transaction, so it's getting a little too.
I don't remember the letter of agreement about the legal fees. Were we splitting it, or
We're
putting
gonna
so
split
much
them.
per, splitting the legal fee?
Splitting it,
Yeah, I think our should be
Yeah.
the lead on it anyway.
Really, the school shouldn't have to get a lawyer, it should be ours and Brian's lawyer doing all the work, basically, because they're not giving anybody any land. They're getting the land, the school district is getting the
The
land,
school district is getting.
yeah. And then after they would share in the cost, a third of the cost of the legal fees.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
on to Newtown business. Letter of reference for Missisquoi Valley Rescue. I was contacted last week about getting a letter of reference, and they had a deadline of like last Monday or Tuesday at 2:00, and it's like, no. We'll get a letter of reference and we'll bring it to the select board and just get
Yeah.
approval. And
Well, I saw that in email, and what's the reference, I guess?
Highgate, even though they're doing work for Highgate's RFP wants a letter of reference.
And what they've done is they're putting it on the ballot I got this from a Highgate resident who attended the select board meeting. They're putting it on the ballot whether the people wanted to go with the Missisquoi Rescue or AMP. So I got the people vote on that.
Why would that come up? Have there been issues with their service?
Well, they put it out for bid, and there's a very slight difference in the cost.
So this is a political thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
All right, got it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it certainly is at their level. Us
Yeah.
doing a letter of reference, I think, is a reasonable request from somebody we worked with and
yeah,
we hire.
yeah.
political.
What's that?
Political.
Well, I don't think a letter of reference is political. I think it's professional.
Well,
Professional.
is that's not a letter of support then?
No,
It's just a letter of reference.
letter of
Say that,
We
We recommend their
Mr. Chair, to
service.
get this,
yeah, I just.
I make a motion that we send this letter that they requested, that somebody drafted so well.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded to
I'll sign this one.
approve and sign, right, approve and sign this letter.
You want to sign?
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Right,
Opposed? So moved. Okay. Review of the 2022 audit. Something, I guess I'll open up by saying, and I haven't quite figured it out yet, but we should come up with, and there's several things that you bring up, and I consider this like a standard operating procedure. The whole thing about getting information that's, of stuff that's on the agenda on the Friday before, we should have a little set of standard operating procedures that how we want to do stuff. So like with an audit, we say this time of year, we decide whether we're going with the same auditors. If we want them in for a meeting, we do that. And then we review, etc. But we just come up with it. That doesn't have to be a lot of verbiage, just some guidelines and
I think it's good guidance.
things about like budget review. We said we were going to do it quarterly, so we pick, let's say, end of the first quarter. We say the second meeting in April is when we should get the budget review from the different departments and so on. But we write that down so that we make it part of our regular
I
business.
think that's excellent, and maybe we ought to get a balance sheet too. We got a P&L, and they have a differing style, they're effective, I guess. Someday that should be standardized. But maybe we ought to get a balance sheet too, to see if they have any open accounts that haven't been paid. In this case of the rec, we would know what's in the reserve fund. If you have any open accounts, accounts receivable, I think that should be also part of the report.
So.
Not just for the rec committee, but anybody.
I understand.
So that's something we can work on, but right now, the review of the 2022 audit was sent a couple times, October and then I think again in December. A lot of numbers, 30-something pages, and then the findings to me is probably the area that
Yeah.
got my attention, and there was one finding. And that finding's very interesting because they say basically it's gonna continue because of the size of our town. That's the way business is done in a lot of towns, so I open up the floor for people to,
I made copies of the summary
Yeah.
and findings.
Well, I got a question. See, you've been involved in, banks, big banks, lots of money, so you had auditors all over the place. Did the auditors ever present their audit to the boards?
Yeah.
See, that's one thing I think would make it, I know it might cost a little extra money, but then when we saw these things, we could ask questions, because most of the stuff is probably trivial, ain't gonna melt to nothing, but, just so that it gives us a better idea of what's going on, than trying to go through that audit and figure it out ourselves.
It's customary to have a meeting with the auditors before it begins. I think they work pretty good with Kathy. But I'd like to, when they come in, I'd like to just talk to them about, they could advise us on latest pronouncements, changes in any of the things, what they might be focusing on this year. We may want to say to them, while you're doing the audit, we'd like you to look into this.
Yeah.
Okay? And then when the audit's all done, we should be able to sit down with them and go over the findings I mean, this repeat thing that the chair mentioned, yeah, it's an aggravation.
Yeah.
And they should be able to put a little note in there as to why it's there. But, yeah, and I've got a myriad of questions. But if we do have, when we do have a meeting, I'd like to propose that we send somebody, maybe Kathy or whoever, our suggestions for an agenda, so we have a nice orderly meeting with them. And I'll give you an example. Hang on a second here. They talked about management, develop a fraud risk management program that is appropriate for the size of the complexity of the town. Okay, I think that's a good suggestion. So we ought to find out.
We've done it.
Yeah,
It's done.
Okay, it's the policies that were passed last year.
Yeah.
Remember, this was as of the end of 2022.
All right.
2023 we
all
adopted.
right, we'll bow to my memory
Yeah.
on that one. Anyway, I think when they come in, we should have an agenda of things we want to talk about. And then let it go with that.
Yeah, and I think after the audit's done, we should have a presentation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we actually did before,
But,
back years ago. I remember
Yeah.
having them come here when I was on the board previously. So I don't think it's a big
No,
increase in the cost for one or two of them to come in and just go over the report with us.
The other thing too, and I don't know if it applies to municipalities, but other boards that I've sat on, you can only use the same auditors for so many years. And I don't know if that applies to us. And sometimes, just for sake of a new set of eyes,
Yeah.
like every 3 years, you send it out to bid again.
We've done that and we don't ever get response.
But,
but you did it.
Right.
Right, you did it.
right.
Yeah,
And it should be done.
yeah.
Oh, I agree
You
with
know,
that.
we did it when I was on the village board. They switched them, so.
Sometimes by law, and we may not be applicable, but sometimes by law we have to.
Yeah.
We have to make that change.
I guess that's my question though. Is there a law that we need to be following to that T of?
I couldn't find one that's not
Okay.
because there's many towns that have no audit by CPA still. They're just doing it with their own private auditors. Now, that changes if you get state or federal grants may require, but that's a single audit on that grant.
Or somebody
but
does
overall,
some embezzling, then they change.
But there's no
Well, the federal
requirement
grant, I mean,
from
we
the
do
state
both. We
for
have
each
to
town
do
to
that.
have an
I
audit.
have not seen it.
That's
So-
interesting to me. Okay.
They're doing the cash check.
And in that context, for the 2024 year we are closing out, do we want to put an RFP out for audit?
Does it hurt?
If it hasn't been done the last 3 years, we probably should.
Okay, so as a board, I see a lot of heads nodding, so
Well, I'll make a motion that we put the 2024 town audit out for bid.
I'll second
here,
that.
motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Okay,
I
so,
did have a suggestion, and you can send this letter around, Brian, and I send it to you with some thoughts, but it's fine. And by the way, I had one of the questions I had, and Kathy really helped us with that. I didn't understand the legalities of the town clerk and treasurer, and they sent me all of the statutes. It's pretty clear. It really is clear. And I think it'd be good for everybody to take a look at that. It lays out in detail the responsibilities in the town clerk and town treasurer's office. So it answered a lot of my questions. But getting back to the audit, should we invite our elected auditors to just say if they wanted to sit in on this audit? Those are the people like,
Yeah, it's right now, they're Joyce Bombardi and Diane LaRock are doing the internal audit right now. They were here yesterday and today, and they're coming back tomorrow.
I just thought as a
Yeah.
courtesy, we could say, we're gonna have this meeting with the outside auditors, would you like to come?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'd like to, I think in here, I said I wanted to see a copy of how they do their audit, our elected.
Oh, I can tell you kind of what they do, because I print out just the reports from them, like our cash receipts, because we cash out every day, so we account for our cash, our checks, our Canadian checks and our credit cards. So we have a cash out procedure, and then every day we cash out And then we keep those for the year. And then when the auditors come, I print out my detailed transaction out of NEMRIC of all the activity. Because all the money goes into the general fund, the general checking account, the main checking account. So I print out the detailed transactions. So they'll sit down and they'll go through those, pick random cash
That's what I had,
receipts.
okay, good.
And then they'll just check them, make sure that, you know, on this day there was, you know, $10,000 worth of cash, $4,000 worth of checks, and, you know, $500 of credit cards and no Canadian checks. And then they check it for what was shows.
So they actually go through and pull a few invoices and statements and
Oh,
things
yeah,
like that?
yeah.
That's good.
And then for the accounts payable, they take the selectmen orders and I print out the check register, both numerically and alphabetically, and then they'll go through all the selectmen orders and they'll pick random checks and look at the invoice and the check number, make sure everything coincides. And then tomorrow they're finishing that, and then once the delinquent tax reports come in, then they'll pull information on that and balance that out. And then they'll do random other, like a spot check of the tax payment that came through. So they do quite a bit.
You know, would it be useful, seeing we're gonna ask our outside auditors to meet with us prior to starting the audit, should we ask our, I refer to them as the elected folks, Joyce and
Joyce and Diane, and usually Amy
Amy,
is the third.
should we ask them to meet with us before they start their audit and then meet with us after they complete it? So that we're consistent with the two auditing functions. And it just,
I'm sure
it
they'd
just
be
makes
willing
it,
to do it.
I'm sure they would, it'd be nice to see Joyce and, so that we're consistent in the application of how we manage the town's money and the audits. And again, invite them and the public, hopefully, would, if anybody's interested, they show up when they meet with Pipes. Okay. I think that does it with what I had. But I will send you some thoughts. I'll send them to you, and then you can,
No, throw them out, that's good.
I'll copy you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thoughts for the agenda and stuff.
Okay.
And everybody else should do the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. If we're gonna bring them in, we should have our thoughts that we wanna talk about. Okay, anything else on the
Nope,
2022 audit?
good progress.
Okay, request of animal control regarding the use of an animal shelter. It's in the packet, and I think most people have probably taken a look at it. To me, it makes sense.
Well, so I chance to read, I got questions.
Yeah? What's that?
There's somewhere, $50 boarding fee, is that, then they have a minimum, or a length of 30 days, what is the fee?
So it's $50 per day.
Yeah.
Oh, $50 per day.
Yeah, it's in that actual contractual language,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's only for if there's a dog that he knows isn't going to go, like if you find a dog that's well fed and you could tell it's something pet, they're gonna come looking for it in a few hours. Then it would go to the town garage. But if it's an animal that he really doesn't know and if it's gonna take a lot of care, it's a lot for him to, is it South Hero, North Hero? Come back and forth at least 3 times a day to feed it and let it out.
And when the owner picks up the dog, they pay the boarding fee.
Yes, so Whiskers and Tails, he works with
But
them.
unfortunately, if it's an abandoned dog, they have to keep it for 10 days and we're gonna be responsible.
And
For
she-
$500.
And she will help get it adopted out. But yeah, if it's somebody's dog and it's there, and then she can take credit cards and take their payment before they take it out.
Okay, my other question was, I mean, we have to pay him mileage, right?
You do now.
Yeah, so if he's chasing back and forth from Grand Isles, I'm wondering, it probably isn't much different between paying that boarding
Right.
fee or paying the mileage. And how many dogs a year? I mean, I know you can't tell, but
2, 3 last
2 to 3,
last year.
maybe.
yeah.
So 40 miles round trip at 50, 60 cents, I don't know what we pay.
67.
Yeah, so you're talking.
He's doing 2, 3
you're
times.
actually
Yeah.
gonna.
It's gotta come
Save
through the
money.
amount.
Yeah, that's what,
And a lot of the times the guys will do it, but like right now, if it's snowing. like
yeah, that's
they
right.
have to do
It's not convenient. There's times when it just can't be done there.
Right.
And I talked to Jim today, that's why talked to Christina, I said we wanted a name, a phone number on different towns that he has contracts with, because like Brian said, the last thing you wanna do is get into a contract with her and then there'll be some animal cruelty. Well, the town of Swanton has a contract with them.
Yeah.
Did some,
So you don't wanna approve this contract tonight then?
No, I've already done all that.
Oh, you've done all
he's
that?
done all that.
Okay.
I've done all that.
Alright,
Right, it's just-
and everything checked out?
Oh, yeah.
They're boarding, St. Albans City and Town and Isle of Mon.
Yeah, he has contracts with all of those towns with her.
It's not an easy job really, but I guess there's probably a way to make a living,
So
working for yourself.
just recently,
Yeah.
for instance, he picked up a dog at the end of Frontage Road, and the dog was very ill, and we were going to bring it to the town garage, but we decided that bringing it here was the better idea. These folks helped raise a significant amount of money for the dog to be taken to Bev's to make sure that it was, it was cared for. Unfortunately, the dog needed to be euthanized because it wasn't well. So I mean, in situations like this, I think it could be very beneficial for not only the animal but also for.
Yeah. And because of the fact that he's not gonna use this for every dog, he's gonna use it for dogs that need it, I don't have a problem. In fact, I'll make a motion that we agree to the contract to use this boarding facility.
I'll second it, and I have a question on J.
Okay.
It says notwithstanding the foregoing, the daycare reserves the right to deliver any animal to a licensed veterinarian or emergency care facility in the event that the daycare reasonably believes the animal's life may be in danger. And sometimes those fees can get pretty expensive, so I think somebody, maybe we could add, after consultation with somebody in the town, because if it, and I understand they're only doing this with the best intentions for the animal,
Yeah.
but say this runs into $2,000-3,000, we have to pay it according to this, and it's at their discretion.
Well,
Should I be-
no, it doesn't actually say we have to bring it to a place, but we can go to that place and they can tell us this is what it's gonna be, and we just say we can't do it, so that they can euthanize
But I
the
think
dog.
that check is what's missing here, is it says it's the discretion of the daycare to bring it, and the vet is going to do what it needs to do to save the animal, but it does not mention a referral back to the town to confirm we want to complete those services.
Okay, all right, then
Well,
we
we're
should.
kind of in that place right now, because Jim, like the dog you had, it got taken to that place and they took care of it. Because it was like
got
an
taken to
emergency.
Bev's
To
only
Bev's.
after the money was raised.
Oh, okay.
He had contacted me prior in regards to taking the dog to the Whisker and Tails,
Oh, okay.
and I was in contact with the board chair, and we felt that that was a reasonable.
Yeah.
I think we should have, after consultation with the town administrator or assistant administrator, because it should be a safety check. Hopefully, the first thing we should say is the vet should give us an estimate.
Yeah.
Because if it's $5,000 versus $100 or $200 to put it away, then
Yeah.
the decision will probably be made to put it
Okay, I
away.
misunderstood that,
After
then
a consult with the town
I
Town
would,
administrator, assistant town
on
administrator.
the cost.
I would amend my motion to include that on, what was it, J?
Yeah.
Animal care, yeah, paragraph J.
Because that can get really expensive real quick.
Yeah.
The only other thing I suggest is that we have something, this is a one-year agreement, it expires 12 months from the signing, so we have a chance to look this over every year.
Yep.
Any further discussion? The only thing I'd say is we allow the town administrator to sign it as part of the approval.
All right,
Any further discussion? All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so moved. All right,
And one other thing I forgot to put in there, he did contact another local place, but they would not guarantee because they will not take unregistered dogs. That place would take.
Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
next. Go ahead, Earl.
No, nothing, I'm stop thinking of the dogs.
Okay. Under new town business, D is RFP for the graphic for the sign, something we talked about. And so we put together a proposed, request for proposal. I'm not sure, I don't really support putting it in the messenger, but it is only a couple $100, and I think we would have money that we put aside in that special fund anyway, or we just post it. There's several ways to get that word out to our different arts council and SPAC without going to the messenger, but that's for you folks to comment and decide on.
So this proposal is for the design and actual making of it,
The graphic,
the graphic.
yeah. they come to us and they say, we'll design you a graphic.
These are the two proposals.
Yeah, I know.
So they would come and say, I'll make a graphic for you for $600 and I can do it in 60 days. And we may hire somebody not like the graphic, you know? That's part of the business. You want a graphic, then you've got to get someone who's gonna do it, and they're gonna want money, and we may decide just to go with a picture after, I don't know. So that's up to you folks. That's what the meeting, you guys said graphic, and this is how we gotta do it to get moving on it. And again, if we go to the messenger, one was 260, I don't think we need the full height of the sign, and the other's 228, but
So you're looking
Is this something the
for,
town's gonna vote on? Of like, let's say that we had like two different designs, right? Is that something that gets voted on, or is that something that we're selecting here?
I think we can make it more complicated, and I think it should
Yeah.
be a decision,
No,
and we
totally.
just get this done. You know, it's been 2 years since it first got brought up as something that needed to be done. And again, if the board wants to do it that way, fine,
Oh, no.
but right now,
I
we're only
just didn't know
asking for a graphic, so.
So this is the
I think-
RFP for the
Let's
graphic.
go with your recommendation. To send these out and,
Just send them out to the arts council. I mean, we could send one up to the high school, you know, and
Yeah,
then maybe
sure.
some kid up
Sure,
there said they want to do it.
I mean, I think we can post it on the town website.
Town website, oh yeah.
Share- And use social media to share it, I think that's sufficient.
so you're not gonna put it in the messenger, we're gonna go local first.
I think that's
I think
all we
so,
need
too.
to really do, and just
Then we
use,
got-
I think use the one that one right there that you did. I think we'll be fine. And see if anybody comes up. All right, there's nothing else on that, we'll move on. A joint meeting, of the two boards to, discuss the changes to the zoning bylaws. Proposed date was the 22nd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on the road for about 3 weeks, starting that date, so I won't be able to attend, but I don't need to be there.
I'd like to see a majority of the board there.
At 5
Absolutely.
p.m.
Does that work for people?
could you have a little earlier before you leave, Joel? I'd like your input.
I would, I'm gonna have input when they come to the, they've gotta come,
Their goal is to meet with the select board and trustees before it goes to public hearing.
right,
Because once it's warned to go to the select board, then people can come and get a permits based on what it is. Even
Wow.
if you want
Even though they're
changes.
not.
So they don't want,
changes, massive
Yeah,
changes
they may-
after.
Could very well be some changes or some things that you'd like to see in there are different than what's been done, and that needs to be discussed.
Prior.
And there's two very important issues. One thing has to do with road takeovers now and waste stormwater. There was discussion about that and the size of, and then there is enforcement, especially on concerning roads and driveways. There are some very legitimate issues there that, you know, I think we're gonna have to take a serious look at and make sure that we may have to put some protocols in place to see that these things are getting done that are supposed to be getting done. There's, you know, that discussion needs to take place, and that meeting would be the ideal place to do it. And then, you know, because they're at this stage with the zoning bylaws, it could be, you know, we could get a lot of the process clarified and in place.
Can we get whatever that we're gonna discuss at that meeting, can we get that a couple of weeks ahead of
we
time?
already got it.
You got the rewrites. That came in email over a week ago.
Okay, I have not seen it.
Steve, it's in your, I sent everything to your town email.
I'll send it again then.
Yep.
Not unless you got any more copies here?
We didn't get any hard copy.
Oh, there was one last night.
It can be printed.
Yeah, because I know I received it.
And are we hard set on 5 p.m.?
What? It's
Just
too
'cause-
early?
Well, I work till 5, so that's a 0 commute time for me.
I also work until 5 that day at Mrs. Ford.
Can we do, will 5:30 fit in?
5:30 works for me, yeah.
I think that's a reasonable compromise, yep.
Thank you.
I'll let the trustees know
And
too because
the-
they're coming.
Yeah, the date wise, maybe can we send out another one, couple, or you don't wanna
It
bother?
already works for all the planning commission and the trustees.
I mean, what I can do is I can read it and submit.
Yeah.
Or is it
Comments.
possible you could zoom in?
Depends how far we drive that day.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
know.
that's,
It gets dark early, usually we don't drive after dark.
I drive late hours, but
Oh,
my wife doesn't necessarily like that, so we
I
might be
understand.
stopping earlier. I will look at that and see.
yeah.
If nothing else, I will read this stuff and give some comment.
Steve,
I would
do you
like to
want a
wait
copy
another
of that
day.
printed?
Yeah, and I think what I'm gonna do, this happens for some reason, I don't get stuff. I'm gonna give you a call tomorrow, we'll try to work our way through it. Cause I don't remember getting this.
I was gonna say, I'm looking at it right now and your name is on it, so.
Yeah, but I don't
We're
know.
all on it. What was the date?
Something I'd like, Christina, if we get back to the,
The 30th of
probably the
December
quarry.
30th.
Is it possible that they'll have some of them overlays available for us to?
The maps.
Yes, I know that Corey was talking, they're waiting for some stuff from regional planning, but, because that'll give
I'll
us
ask
a better
Cory for
idea.
maps. And I get better luck when I ask Ross to ask for it.
Yeah. Now, who from the planning commission is gonna do the presentation? Is it gonna be Ross or will it be Corey?
It's gonna be.
It's gonna be Cory.
Okay, then, you know, we should go down
Up at the
through,
village office.
you know,
Do it at the village
probably major
office.
stuff to start with. There's a lot there to try to do.
Pretty
because you know
crowded
how
in
long
here,
it ran on.
planning and-
Yes,
We can,
and leave adequate time for the, you know, the road that we talked about, the driveways, the various enforcement things, and,
For the 22nd?
yeah, for the 22nd, yeah.
is the village complex available? Could we have it there?
Yeah.
I can ask.
Yeah, you need more space than
Yeah.
this if you're gonna
Yeah.
have the trustees and the plan in there. And I don't know how much public you're gonna have, but.
And because this is such an important issue for the community, and there's a lot of good things being proposed in there, I think we ought to invite Northwest Access to there too, so we can get out as much publication on it, as much information out to the public as possible. I don't think a lot of people realize that we're,
Big changes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one example is some of the things they're doing they're gonna be, they won't have to come before the DRB so much.
Right.
Okay, because that does affect their fees though. So we might have to start looking at a fee schedule, you know, in reality.
Yeah, well, that's something that
You know.
they should take a look at. with Their
and that,
zoning
you know, that's
administrator.
another thing that they wanted to discuss.
Okay. Anything else regarding that meeting?
I'll find out all of that and I'll email you in a couple days.
All right.
Probably have it before you know.
Anything under community and economic development?
No.
I'll pick up my copy of that right at your office.
Any other necessary business, discussion of setting a special select board budget meeting? Yeah, we did not get finalized fire department and police budgets yet. And I have spoken to one trustee and the village manager and explained that they meet next Monday. And basically, we need it by the 15th of January for us to do, you know, if we're gonna have a special meeting,
Yeah.
you know, next week, toward the end of the week. I suppose we could do it at our Tuesday meeting on the 21st, but I explained to them, you know, it is a budget. And they've got a lot going on because they got an audit going on up there and stuff, but it's not, we're asking for their finalized 2024 numbers. We're asking for a proposed budget. And it's gonna look pretty bad if we go out in our report and say, police budget not submitted on time. You know, that's not gonna go well with the public, I don't think. What's that?
Not to vote on either.
Because the information has to be to the ballots.
Yeah, I know it's gotta be for the balance and stuff,
Yeah.
and,
It's gotta be in the morning when we put it, when we go to print our town report, your warning has to be done and signed and dated with all your numbers in it.
What's the deadline on that, Kathy?
Next meeting.
The 24th.
That everything has to go to the printers on the 24th.
Everything has to be to us because it's not just getting it. We have
Right,
to
you
input it.
format it
we have
and
to
then put it-
format
oh,
and
yeah.
put it- It's not like we throw it on a,
I know.
and send it off, it all has to be formatted into our town
So
report.
we're definitely better off to try to do it that, you know, that week of the 15th.
if
You
we-
would shoot for the 15th, I think that's.
well, I told the village we needed their stuff on the 15th, so the 16th or 17th, if we could meet to go over the budget. You know, can we do it, and I know you work during the day, can we do a couple hours to just go over the budgets?
Well, do you wanna try like for Thursday night at 5:30? Because you can make 5:30.
Yeah.
And if we don't get it all done Thursday night, if we get tired and have to go home, we can come back on Friday.
We'd have to warn it though, right?
What's the
Yeah.
date, Earl, for the Thursday?
16th.
January
16th.
16th
Does that work for everybody?
at 5:30.
5:30?
Yep.
But here again, it's gonna be kind of important that we get as much of the final budgets to us before that meeting. So we can review them and try to come.
Right, I mean, we've got the budget for the rec,
Yeah,
and we've got the
Library.
Valley Rescue.
yeah, we've got that.
And
one.
We've got, do we have a budget for library?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Didn't
We
they
have
put
a,
some more work to it?
No?
No,
That's good?
we-
Okay. So you got that, then you'll have my budget for the library, and then,
Right.
we gotta have the finalized
And then you-
general budget.
and finish up the highway.
Yeah,
The highway's pretty much done,
Yeah.
except for I have to update, cause I pay bills.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think, I don't think we,
Because,
I don't think we technically approved anything other than highway, but what we did say is we had till January 3rd, which was last Friday. If there were comments and we wanted presenters to
Yeah.
come back regarding their budgets, we asked for rec to revise and they did. So we have those other ones to technically approve to put them on the warning.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we need to finalize numbers to the ones that you just mentioned, and then we've got the police and
Yeah.
the fire that the village has to get to us.
Now,
But, yeah.
you all have well, it's not the
It's not
final,
the finalized fire.
but it's close. I mean,
I've got two of them,
right, so the second one you got
Yeah.
is the better one, yeah.
but that's not the final one.
Well,
It's
they
not
haven't-
the- it's
they
not their
haven't-
approved.
They haven't approved.
Oh, they haven't approved
No.
it.
Right.
So it doesn't mean they've changed anything in that budget. That's the budget that they're gonna present to the trustees.
Yeah,
So more than likely it's gonna,
more than likely, because it is a fairly small
Highway,
increase.
general, library.
But again, that, the bottom line is we need those budgets to finish this up. So
Yeah.
we'll plan on the 16th at 5:30.
and then on the 16th, we'll have the rollover numbers too, so we know.
Yes, you
Yeah,
will.
so, yeah.
Hey, can we do as far as the library, last year, I think, we put two budgets together, the money that we spend for them from the town, and then the budget, I think Earl brought that up, so we know what the true cost of running.
We can't put those
No,
together.
no, but I
But
mean, in
just
our
so they can
report.
visualize
Oh, you mean
the
Yeah.
cost of
Right.
operating a library.
The impact on the tax rate is basically.
Well, you'll know that anyways, because their budget is a certain amount
Yeah.
based on the tax rate, and then the budget that we do gets a tax rate, so you just
Yeah,
add
because
those
they're
two
both
tax
voted
rates
on
together.
separately.
Right,
Yeah.
But, so on the page, one page we show one, the other one, and then we should have a footnote, the combined budgets or
Right.
this total for
Yeah, we
this,
did that last year, I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
okay?
That gives us a true picture.
All right, anything else regarding that budget meeting? All right, correspondence, I got this note in December. Didn't pass it along to everybody and thought y'all should just see it. It's Maple Grove Estate and there's still issues and they haven't done the paving and so on, so we'll see what spring brings, but I thought you should all see the correspondence just so you're aware of it. And I haven't. got
So
any
we took
additional-
this over before they met the standards?
We haven't taken it over.
No.
They're just giving us a heads up of, we agreed under certain conditions, and then we found out the issue with the stormwater.
Okay.
They haven't taken the cores yet, they haven't done the paving.
My bad, I misread that.
Yeah, so no, we haven't taken, this is just kind of an informational thing.
Yeah, they got this $1,500 per year. Is that for a wastewater permit? So,
But that's theirs to take care of.
It is.
What we said is we weren't gonna, they were gonna maintain the stormwater
Yeah. Yep.
permits, and that would be their cost.
That would be the,
so they estimated.
the yearly maintenance and.
I think they're,
It would include the work, the inspection certification frequency along with costs as such. So
And-
going forward, all work be $1,500 a year, so.
And I think what they're thinking of is they were gonna be able to split the stormwater, so that what they're taking out of one of the town meeting minutes is, it wasn't gonna be that big a deal, and they're kind of assuming the town's gonna take it over, but what we said subsequent to that, when we found out you can't split it that easy, is we weren't gonna maintain that permit.
Okay, have you had our policy reviewed for any legal issues, liability issues? Remember we talked about that when we approved the policy to make sure?
Policy.
Yeah.
No, I haven't, but I can.
Because we'd be better off going that route there too. And that leaves the stormwater entirely up to them. And we should be out of it. I just wanna make sure, from a legal standpoint, we are with that policy.
We can send it to Brian on it and have him take a look, and he has something on this Precision Lane about
Yeah.
stormwater that we've got to question into him, because
Yeah.
that could change this policy a little bit too, so we can send it to him. Won't take him very long to read that and give us comment back. Okay. Public comment? Upcoming events?
All right, well, January 16th at 5:30 PM, there'll be a special select board budget meeting. Monday, January 20th, 2025 is Martin Luther King holiday. Town offices and operations will be closed. Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, will be a regular select board meeting at, should it be 6 or 6:30?
Regular select board meeting should be 6, right?
6 today.
At 6 PM here at the town offices and by Zoom. Thursday, January 23rd, 2025 will be a developmental review board meeting at 6 PM here at the town offices and by Zoom.
What was the first date you said, Nicole? January 15th?
January 16th
16th,
for
okay.
our special select board budget meeting.
Okay,
And
I thought I heard 15th, thanks.
And so we also got the meeting on the 22nd. Well, it's not firmed yet, but proposed meeting on the 22nd.
We proposed
That in there.
joint meeting on the 22nd at 5:30 PM.
Okay. Any need for executive session?
No?
Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Thank you, folks.
Good meeting.